Good afternoon. My name's Alex. I'm standing in the middle of this old field because I want to get a closer look at some of the pollinators that we have here in the Northeast. Problem is I'm going to have to find them first. I'm in Stony Brook, Long Island, visiting Avalon Park Preserve, specifically their old field. An old field is what it sounds like, an old farm field that has been left to overgrow. Now this pasture is habitat for many different species, different birds, different invertebrates like bugs, and mammals like deer and mice. So right now, my goal is to try and find wildflowers, which at this time of the year is a little challenging to do. Now, it's the first full week of autumn. Most people assume that if everything's getting ready to shut down this time of year, they are definitely not thinking about flowers. Flowers are something for the springtime. However, this isn't the case. Different species bloom at different times of the year. Some bloom in the springtime, some in the summer, and some right now at the beginning of autumn. And that's really important for pollinators because it gives them that last little bit of nutrients they need before they go dormant as well, just like all their plant food sources. Now, one of these plants that tends to be very popular this time of year is called goldenrod. You're probably going to notice it over my shoulder right now. It's that beautiful gold-colored flower. So we're going to take a closer look at goldenrod and the pollinators that are using it right now. Goldenrod belongs to the genus Solidago. And there are a lot of different species within that genus. This is most likely Canadian goldenrod. Now, blooming so late in the season is actually a genius adaptation because now it does not have to compete with other flowering species for the same number of pollinators. Okay, earlier I said we were looking at pollinators, not so much the flowers themselves, although those are interesting and important. The two main pollinators we're going to be looking at are the bumblebee, which belongs to the genus Bombus. Now there are a lot of bees in that category, so I'm not going to be identifying them individually. It's a little too tough to do. But the other one we're looking at is Apis mellifera, or the honeybee, or European honeybee. Now with a name like that, it's kind of obvious they're not from this area or from this continent for that matter. They were brought from Europe to North America for agricultural purposes, for the collection of honey, for the collection of wax, and for the pollination of crops. Now just because they're not native doesn't mean that they're bad. Both they and bumblebees provide a very valuable service to the local ecosystem that they inhabit. So we're going to take a closer look at those species right now. Now, one of the most important things you have to keep in mind is that all the bees in these clips, all the bees in your garden, they're all female. Drones, or male bees, are only really useful during the breeding season, and once their usefulness is over, they die. Now, both bumblebees and honeybees live in colonies, although honeybees live in colonies of several thousand individuals, whereas bumblebees live in colonies of a couple dozen. Now, both of them go after nectar. Nectar is a sweet liquid produced by the flower, and they use that nectar to create honey. Now, honey is a sweet treat for us, but for them it's a power source. It's the lifeblood of the colony. Unfortunately, all honey is bee vomit. Sorry, but it's true. Now, it's not always sunshine and roses in the old field, especially not always for the pollinators. Let me show you what I mean. Here, hiding amongst the goldenrod, is a true ambush predator. This is an adult female praying mantis, and she is chowing down on a poor bumblebee who got a little too close. Now she's gravid, which means she's getting ready to produce eggs, and she needs as much protein as possible in order to do that. So she's just about finishing up now. She'll probably go back and wait for another poor unsuspecting soul and have herself another meal. So pollinators haven't been doing so well recently, honeybees specifically. They're suffering from something called CCD, or colony collapse disorder. Now what's scary about this is just how important pollinators are. Most of the food that we eat is produced with the help of pollinators. So no pollinators means no food. Now some farmers are hiring workers to go out into the field and hand pollinate their crops. And as good as those people may be at their job, they don't hold a candle to normal natural pollinators. Now there are things that you and I can do to help promote pollinators in our area, give them a fighting chance. And some of those resources are above my head right now. I encourage you to look at them. Now anything that we can do, even the small things that helps make us stewards of this planet, will make it a much greener future. And I prefer green over the Thunderdome any day. Thank you for taking this walk with me. Pollinators are way more important than many people realize, and it takes actions from you and me to protect them. Now, if you excuse me, I gotta find my way out of this place. Hello? Anyone?